and welcome to In the Lab. Now, I'm Mr. Walker and today I have a guest host.
Hi, I'm Jude and I'm from Year 8.
Fantastic. Now, this is going to be our very first question and answer session. Yes, indeed, good news to us all, and many of you have handed in your questions already. Now, there are some question and answer sessions from a year or two ago on space. Now, there's a link appearing on the screen now that you might want to click on if you want to watch those with me and Mr. Wilson. But this is our first general question and answer session. If you've got any questions, by the way, there's two ways that you can give them to us. You can write your questions to inthelab@kingswarrington.com, or of course you can put them into the burning questions board, and there's a picture appearing on the screen now. This is the board you're looking for. It's on the science corridor. Just pop your questions into there. So, without further ado, let's go to our first question. Over to you, Jude.
Okay, so the first question is from Lakeitha Steinberg, and it is, why not just make the desired pitch the one that pings out loud, instead of the hidden one that you have to put against your ear?
Now that sounds like an absolutely mad question, doesn't it? Because it's talking about tuning forks. So the question was about the pitch that you hear out loud. Now, we made a video about this, and again, the link's appearing on the screen if you want to watch us talking and using tuning forks. But this is what it's all about. Now, you might know that if I hit a tuning fork on the table and then rest it on the table, you can actually hear the tone. There's a bit of a tone, but then that quiet tone, that's the actual tone of the tuning fork. That's what you hear if you hit it and then put it near your ear. That is the tone that you hear. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
And it's the same tone that you hear when you put it on the table. So the question was, why can't you just hit it and then everybody hears it without having to put it on a table? Well, the answer is quite simple. It would have to be much bigger and much more complicated, probably much heavier and more expensive to be able to do that. Maybe a massive one with different sized prongs, maybe extra bits of equipment on, could send the sound out. So musicians have to be able to have them in their pockets so that they can just get them out, tap something, and then check that their instrument is in order. It's got to be small and cheap. So that's the reason why they've got to be like this. But the good news is we can hear it out loud. It's quiet, but we can. So there we go. Second question, Jude. What is it?
Okay, the second question is from Lillian Davies. Why so birds don't get hurt when they go on the electrical wire? I'm asking because I saw a blackbird land on one and they didn't get hurt, but I want to know why. That's a good question.
That is a good question. And in fact, here's a picture of what Lillian is talking about. You can see the wire, and there's lots of birds sat on that wire. You've probably noticed it yourself. They're totally okay. They are not harmed. Now, I'm going to go to you first, Jude. Any ideas why do the birds not get harmed? Why are they not electrocuted and fall off dead?
So I think because birds have quite rigid feet, so it's quite like thick and quite strong and quite like sturdy. So I think even though the electrical current's like going down there or going down the wire, it's able to like intercept it, and it's like harder to get electrocuted.
So you think that it's not able to get to the bird because the feet are too tough?
Yeah.
Interesting. What if I told you that if we were sat on the wire, we wouldn't get electrocuted either? Does that change your answer?
Yeah.
It does. So what could it be? I'm sure some of you at home have got your hands up and you're thinking, I know the answer, I know the answer. Well, I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is that charge or current, it's got to be able to get down to earth. It's got to pass through you and get to earth for you to have a shock. Now, the birds are sat on the wire, so they are getting all of that current. It is all going through the wire and it's going through the birds, but it's not harming them because it's not discharging. In fact, it's not really going through them, it's just kind of going below them. If it were to go right the way through them, that would cause damage. And only if you climbed on a ladder that was metal and you touched the wire, would it be able to go from the wire, through you, through the ladder, through the earth, and you get electrocuted. But it's just passing underneath the bird's feet. I mean, there is a little bit going through the bottom of the feet, but hardly noticeable. So the birds do not get electrocuted. Anything that sits on a wire without having a route to get to the ground, they're safe. It's totally okay. Now, that doesn't mean you need to go and try it, people, because it's quite dangerous to get up there, and all the signs say don't even try it. But that is the reason. Does that make sense?
I have a question about that.
You've got a question?
If you're jumping on a trampoline,
yes.
It creates friction. If you were to touch like the metal frame, why does it give you a small electric shock? But if you were to be on something that electricity is going through, like in the current, why don't you get shocked?
Why don't? Well, if you have built up static electricity on you, and so you're on a trampoline and it's made of fibres that's not transmitting all of the charge to the frame. If you're jumping on the middle, you're building up the charge on you as your feet brush against the surface. Then when you touch the frame, which is metal, the frame's on the floor, so the charge is just going to go zoom right the way to the ground and you get a shock. There you go. So you've got to think about where is the charge, how's it going to get to Earth, and if it can't get to Earth, it's not going to leave you, it's not going to pass through you, you're not going to get shocked. There you go. That is 2 questions we've done so far. We have got a third, haven't we? What's the third question?
Okay, this question is, and why do we have dreams? My mum was telling me that about not everyone having dreams, so why do we dream?
That's an interesting one. I'm going to come to you again. Why do you think we have dreams? Any ideas?
I think that because your brain is constantly working, no rest. Only on off things when you're on a parasympathetic nervous system, when you're resting and digesting. I think it needs to always work, no matter what type of nervous system you're on. So I think it's the neurons firing in your brain trying to send messages to like maybe your eyes, and like you're seeing it or trying to experience like work.
I like that, that's very good. And of course dreams are caused exactly by that. Your nerves are firing and sometimes messages are flying all over your body while you're asleep, and your brain interprets it as actually happening rather than you creating it. So normally you'd see something with your eyes, you'd get a message in your brain that you've seen it and you'd know what it was. But your brain's creating those impulses from your eyes to your brain and you're thinking it's actually happening. The question had in it that some people don't dream. Now, some people don't always remember their dreams, but we think as scientists that most people do dream a lot of the night. There's a part of the night, and it's called rapid eye movement, or the REM stage of sleep, and your eyes move around a lot, and people think you're definitely having intense dreaming when your eyes are moving around. If you wake up in that stage, when your eyes are moving under your eyelids, you're more likely to remember your dreams. But why do we dream? We know physically why we dream because we've explained it, but what's the purpose of dreaming? Now, do you know there's a lot of different ideas as to why people dream? Maybe it's to process the day. Maybe it is to help you practice certain things that you know are coming up and you're imagining those scenarios to help with that. Maybe it's the things that you're fearful of and it's your brain trying to tell you you need to deal with those things. There's lots of suggestions why. And sometimes they have meanings in them. We might have objects in dreams and it's our brain visualizing certain things as objects. And if you can work out what those things mean, you can work out what bothers you or what you need to think about. And it might just be the things you've seen in your day and you've just been playing too many video games and those images are all in your head. Could be all that sort of thing, couldn't it? 3 questions down. We've got one more, haven't we? And I think this was one that was put into the burning questions board, wasn't it? So it's on a bit of paper. What does that say?
Okay.
Oh yes, there's the question. Yeah.
How is CO2 made?
How is CO2 made? Now I think you know some of this, don't you, from your studies. How is CO2 made?
Okay. I'll write it down and then I'll show.
He's going to write it down. Okay, here we go. He's getting a board and he's going to write it down.
So how about you write it down as well so we can get your...
Okay, I will write it down. I've got several answers for this. I hope you have. Right, okay.
But we are made of carbon,
yeah,
and we breathe in oxygen, so I think they fuse in the alveoli.
You've got it. You've got it exactly. We breathe in O2, oxygen, carbon combines with it, and we breathe out CO2. That's one way that we can make it. And I've written that. Breathing, absolutely. Although, of course, the process is, what's the process? Beginning with R.
Respiration.
Respiration, that's what we do. And in fact, plants do it as well. They just photosynthesize also. The second thing we can do, we could get some acid and we could add a carbonate to it, or the other way around, and one of the products is CO2. Now, you could do that at home. You could get acid like vinegar. You could get a carbonate like bicarbonate of soda. You could put them together and you will see bubbling, and that is CO2. You could also get fuels, any kind of fuel like petrol or diesel or a gas that you would burn when you go camping. The products of combustion are carbon dioxide and water. So there's 3 ways that you can make CO2. There's lots of ways, and in fact a picture's coming up now to show you how we would store the CO2 that we would make. We put them in cylinders just like this, and then that means that you can use them whenever you want to. You might even put them into fizzy drinks, because that gas, all those bubbles, that's CO2. When you burp from drinking fizzy drinks, that's CO2 as well. So that's another way you can make it, by burping. But there you go.
So I have a good point on that.
Oh yes, give me your good point.
What about a soda stream? How would it have like pressurised tanks filled with CO2 to make that?
That's exactly right. Somebody's already made the CO2, they fasten the cylinder in, they press a button and it injects the CO2 into the water under higher pressure, and then when you shake up the water again, just like when you drink it or when you shake up a can, the CO2 is released again. Very good. Now then, you've been asking me loads of questions. I've asked you a couple, but it is time for something we're going to do in all of our question and answer sessions. It's the killer question. As you can see on the board, it says the killer question, because that's what it is. Now, here is the question. It's a question that someone has written down, so if you've got a killer question, put those into the burning question board or send it to inthelab@kingswarrington.com. He's ready with his board. The question is this, it's a hard one, it's a very hard one. How many Mars bars fit in a fish tank? And that's a question from Darren. Now, the picture coming up is the fish tank in question. It will hold about 300 litres of water. And in case you don't know what a Mars bar is, here's a picture of that as well. So, Jude is writing his answer down. How many Mars bars will fit in that fish tank? You've got an answer?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
here we go.
very random, but I think 70 grams is probably around a Mars bar.
Okay.
And if it's 300 litres in a fish tank,
Right.
that would 70 would equal a certain amount, and then you've got 300 litres. So I'm random guess, but I think
Yeah. Random guess. The total would be, you've done the mass of a Mars bar.
326.
326 Mars bars would fit there. Interesting. I thought you might have gone with the length times by the height times by the width.
Too much maths.
Too much maths. He's decided to just kind of think about it another way. I can tell you the official answer is, you said 326? It's 11,500. That's how many Mars bars would fit there. So, I mean, you're close in the sense that you gave me a number. They're both numbers, so that's kind of close. Yeah, not bad.
How did you even calculate in the first place? We're quite wondering about.
Well, I did exactly that. I had the length of the fish tank and the width and the diameter, same with the Mars bar, and then worked out how many would fit in there. That's how we did it. Well, for more questions, you can tune in next time for the next edition of our Q&A in the lab. So thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.
Bye.
Like and subscribe to In the Lab.
Like and subscribe to In the Lab for your burning questions.